Whether you're gun hunting or bow hunting, luring a deer into range is quite a thrill. But if you want more of a thrill, try supercharging your hunt with a mock scrape.
Mock scrapes are extremely powerful tools. That said, there is not a single magic bullet in any of this stuff. You're watching Deer and Deer Hunting.
This is where it all begins.
My best hunting day ever. This is Deer and Deer Hunting TV.
One of the things I find most troubling about trends in hunting today is, well, frankly, it's becoming more and more of a rich man's sport every day. Which stinks, especially for the states that do not have a surplus of public hunting ground like Wisconsin does. Because, and I get it, the media outlets in the hunting industry have to be driven by advertising dollars, otherwise they can't bring you these shows, they can't bring you these magazines, they can't bring you these Facebook pages or anything in their YouTube channel. So it ends up getting this twisted perspective that you gotta have deep pockets. You don't have deep pockets, there ain't virtually everything. You wanna improve your hunting, well, you better start making some money, guys and girls, because nothing comes for free baloney. There's all sorts of free things that we can do, or virtually free. What we're gonna talk about in this show are mock scrapes. There's no reason that anybody can't do this, and it does not have to cost you a cent. Want to take it up just a notch higher? Sure, we can go out, we can pick up the scent drippers, we can pick up the quality scents, but we don't have to. And there are a ton of advantages to mock scrapes. One of the biggest things that I do when it comes to management is to try to get whitetails to spend a disproportionate amount of time on my property. You are never, I don't care, the biggest property I have ever managed is 5,000 acres. 5,000 acres of free range, almost completely contiguous. Guess what? The bucks left. Not every single one, but some of the bucks cross that property line. Short of high fence, there's nothing you can do to make it so that your deer do not cross property lines. But what we can do is we can shift the percents up and down. That's what I strive to do. I strive to get whitetails to spend a disproportionate amount of time on the grounds I manage. How do you do that? You offer them better food, better water, better cover, better feeling of safety. Mock scrapes are one of the things that help me. That's a time waster. One of the purposes I use mock scrapes is to get them to waste time on my property in areas I want them to spend time. Sure, he may only spend 30 seconds. He may only spend 90 seconds working that mock scrape, but when he goes 10 yards further and does it again, and he goes another 20 yards and does it again, and goes another 30 yards and does it again, all of a sudden we're talking that 5-10 minutes, aren't we? And if we can keep him on our side of the fence for those 5-10 minutes, that's a difference maker for us.
Deer and Deer Hunting is brought to you by Scent Killer Gold with Hunt Dry Technology Plus. Apply it, try it, and go hunt. Remington, America's oldest gunmaker. Get armed and deadly with Easton FNJ arrows. And by 10-Point Crossbow Technologies. There is no substitute. This segment of Deer and Deer Hunting is brought to you by Redneck Blinds.
A scrape for the whitetail is a communication signal, and it's got many moving parts to it. Number one, you have an overhanging licking branch. Deer will prefer certain species of branches to deposit their scent on. They deposit scent from their eyes, their tongues, their noses, they rub their foreheads on it. There's all sorts of different scent that a whitetail is going to deposit on that branch so other deer can communicate. It's no different than dogs. Deer are coming through here, they're laying down some scent and they're going about their way. Another deer comes through, it might be a deer from that area, it might be a deer that's passing through that core area, it's depositing its scent. Deer keep track of each other based off that scent. Why they do this? They do it throughout the year. A lot of people look at a mock scrape and think this is only during the rut. Deer use them a lot during the rut because bucks are expanding their area. They're getting outside of their comfort zone, their home ranges, and they're going onto different properties. They're depositing scent. Hey, I'm here, I'm checking in. Does do it too, fawns do it too. The key to understand here is a scrape is used year-round by deer. The most important part of that scrape is the licking branch. Bucks will paw the ground underneath the licking branch more often during the fall, but during the rest of the year, March, April, May, June, July, August, any deer that's coming through here, if this is a key used licking branch, they're going to deposit scent on that branch. So that's the thing you should keep in mind. That licking branch is key.
I can't think of anything more exciting than hunting over an active deer scrape. You know, scrapes are those social centers, those social hubs where deer hang out. And they can be very productive to hunt because you know that nearly every buck in the area is going to visit those scrapes at some point or another. Now, scrapes provide that eye candy that really get hunters fired up. They're going to come by, they might not scrape up the place, but they're going to visit those licking branches. They're going to try to find out, okay, who's been hanging out here today? Who was here yesterday? They're going to be using those scrapes year round. And the key, it's the licking branch.
Now, I'm going to be going into a pretty significant level of detail on what I use for drippers and scents and all this good stuff. Just remember, I'm making, 250 to 300 mock scrapes a year. Out of those 250 to 300, I'm running, 25 to 50 scrape drippers and scent. The rest are just nothing more than putting that licking branch right here. Now, is that as effective as using golden scrape out of a Magnum scrape dripper? Not quite, but you know what? It doesn't cost me a cent.
You know, early or mid-summer and do your work. You need to create your mock scrapes early enough so that deer become accustomed to them, start using them, start leaving their calling cards. They're going to keep those scrapes fresh and active for you once they accept them, and that's really the key. You need to get out there early. The other big point is, if you cause a disturbance early in the year, it's not going to have as big of an impact as if you go in there a week before hunting season, try to create a scrape. So you need to get in there early, get your scrapes established so that deer start using them, start accepting them.
Coming up later, Steve is hunting a property he manages in Illinois, utilizing a mock scrape he made. Can he bring an end to his Illinois shotgun season? Stay tuned. You're watching Deer and Deer Hunting TV.
You know, Brad, I go on all these hunts, I get my broadheads out of the clamshell. When it's time to go home, I never know what to do with them. I think maybe we've come up with something good. What have you done in the past?
Well, the most economical and ineffective way to store broadheads isn't in a zipper bag, but you can imagine my broadhead.
Yeah, that's less than
plastic.
ideal.
Yeah.
It'll work, but it's less than ideal. This is the new Sever broadhead case. You know, Sever, we sell them in these individual tubes. You can take them out. They come with O-rings and set screws. But what's great about these is when you're done, you can actually put them right back into those tubes, and
Yep.
back they go in these little cases.
Protected just like they came from the factory.
Yeah, so great solution. Is awesome, and they'll stay put. It'll hold 12, and then it's also got this little zippered pouch, so if you want to put O-rings or some field points in there, extra O-ring set screws, those will go right in there and stay secure. And these are being sold on the Sever website, severbroadheads.com. Go take a look. It's the new broadhead case from Sever.
This segment of Deer and Deer Hunting is brought to you by Matthews.
Anybody who's followed my work closely at all realizes that I'm big on cutting and planting scrape trees. I'm big on mock scrapes. No, you go ahead, you cut this tree, you plant it out here in the middle of this opening. You are not going to draw every single buck in here, but you make it stick out like a turd in a punch bowl, point the licking branches back towards the stand, and it's a billboard. Scrapes are nothing more than the whitetail world's equivalent of a billboard, so the more they stick out, the more a buck wants to work that scrape. Is every single buck going to come into it? No, absolutely not. But the ones that do, you point these licking branches back towards the stand, and what happens is they come in and, oh, there are some darn good shot angles right there from back behind you. At the same time, you got all day to go like this and take your shot while they're working the mock scrape. The problem is when you do a bunch of these like I do, you know what? They get trashed. Softwoods, they don't even make it a season. A lot of hardwoods can make it that one season, maybe 2 or 3, but now you're cutting down tree after tree after tree. So what I've done is last year I went down, got a whole bunch of treated fence posts, whole bunch of treated 2x10s, cut lengths, attached them to the top of the fence post with 3 deck screws and some Gorilla Glue, to be honest with you. Went ahead and bought a bunch of U-bolts, put them through, planted them the exact same way I would a scrape tree. Now, the whole reason that I did that is so I wouldn't have to cut trees year after year after year. Now all I have to do is go cut some oak branches, stick them through those U-bolts, cinch them down tight, and it accomplishes the exact same thing. Making it so that I don't have to cut down all sorts of scrub oaks is what works the best, and replant them every 2-3 years, time after time after time. It's a nice balance. I'm not going to get into specs on it because frankly, I winged it, and I'm sure you guys can come up with even better specs than I did. And they seem to work every bit as good as cutting and planting a scrape tree. Regardless, go out there, play around, mock scrapes, planting scrape trees, they're big time game changers when it comes to increasing your shot opportunities yet another notch. And I'm telling you, that can be a game changer when Mr. Big comes in. I'll be honest with you, I was busy filming some of those deer when I took a glance off to my right, and I love to pretend I saw this buck coming in across the field. It took all my skill, and no, he was right there. You know what? I think I better move on him because now a doe is coming out the access road to the field, and I'm afraid he's going to go over and check. Back. I shoot, and frankly, I thought the shot was a little bit off as he went running away. As you can see, I just shot a management 8. And I've got another younger 8, 2.5-year-old, and 2 does out within. I mean, heck, the one doe just never left. Now, I'm pretty darn sure I killed him. The shot was a little bit further forward than I'd like on a quartered away like that. But as I said, I'm pretty sure he's dead. I'm just gonna sit here for a few minutes and then we're gonna go get him. This is one of 4 bucks I was trying to kill back in here today. You saw what happened. It actually couldn't have worked out any better. I did hit it a little bit further forward than I wanted to. On textbook quartering away shots, I don't like aiming for that opposite leg. I like aiming back just a little bit. And that had me a little bit nervous, but it went, less than 100 yards. So I'm gonna slap me a tag on this bad boy because my Illinois shotgun season is officially done. So in this hunt, we ended up taking our does to help lower the population, plus our management buck. We filled the freezer with all sorts of truly gloriously healthy meat, and at the same time, we help our habitat.
Deer and Deer Hunting is brought to you by Thompson Center, America.
Muzzleloading sure is fun, and a lot of the fun that comes with muzzleloading is that it's an art. Everything about muzzleloading has to be precise if you want consistency, and that consistency comes from bullets, powder, grain charges, and everything that you do with your muzzleloader. So, and that includes the cleaning process. But today I want to talk about bullets and charges. You know, whether you're using Pyrodex pellets or loose powder or whatever you're using, that charge needs to be consistent for you to get consistent accuracy. But also your bullet needs to be consistent, because let's face it, in your muzzleloading box, probably a lot like mine, you have different types of bullets. You have different grains. Right here I've got 200, 250, and 300 grain bullets. That 200 grain bullet's gonna fly a lot differently than that 300 grain bullet, even with a 100 grain charge. And even with like 100 grains of 2 pellets or loose powder, there's gonna be differences there. So that's one thing you wanna keep in mind. The other thing you should keep in mind is bullet type. You know, right here I have 2 different types of bullets. We've got polymer tip bullets. We've got hollow point expanding bullets. I also have shot soft lead bullets, which are really deadly on whitetails. But you can't just say I have a 200 grain bullet and I'm using 100 grains of powder and then think that it's going to perform the same. It depends upon what the bullet is. It depends upon the temperature a lot of times, whether it's really cold or if it's warm. So one thing that I suggest is get that recipe. That's one thing that really is important about muzzleloading, is getting the right recipe that works for you, and then sticking with that recipe and being aware of what is going to change the point of impact downrange.
Most any crossbow you buy is going to have some sort of drop compensating scope. When you look through the scope, you're going to see a series of hash marks that correspond with different yardages, 20, 30, 40, 50 yards, and so on. But it's important to know how to set the scope up properly to take advantage of that feature. Okay, on this 10-point Nitro XRT, in addition to those hash marks in the scope, we've got an arrow speed compensator. Basically what we need to do first is we need to set this thing up for the speed of the arrow so it corresponds on this dial. Now the best way to do that is to use a chronograph to get the exact speed of the arrow coming out of the bow. Now if you can't do that, you can go to the specs that 10-point provides, and it'll give you an average speed for the different types of arrows that you use. Okay, back home, I dialed this bow in, I sighted it in with practice points. Now that I've got the Sevr broadhead on there, I need to make sure that this thing is still zeroed. The first shot you want to take will be at 20 yards, and that'll be using the top crosshair, which corresponds with 20 yards. Okay, it's shooting pretty good at 20 yards. Now if it was shooting high, left, right, obviously I'd want to make those adjustments now at 20 yards. Once I've got it all dialed in at 20 yards, I'm going to move back to 40 yards and I'm going to repeat the process. Okay, from here it looks like I hit pretty much right on at 40 yards, which means this dog is ready to hunt. Now, if I would have been shooting high, if I would have shot high at 40 yards, I would have increased the dial, the arrow speed on the dial. If I would have hit low, I would have decreased the arrow speed on the dial so it correspond with more accurately with what the bow is producing. But since I'm right on at 40 yards, now I know that this thing is on all the way through the scale, 20, 30, 40, 50 yards.
Hi, I'm Dan Schmidt. For more tips, strategies, and hunting action, be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Thanks for watching Deer and Deer Hunting TV.